Okay, we are live. Hi, this is William Ramsey. Welcome to William Ramsey Investigates. On today's show, I have a very special guest, returning guest. If you're watching this on one of my 3 YouTube channels, which I strangely still have, X, Rumble, Rockfin, or streaming on his sites. His full name is Austin Wade Picard. This will be our 10th show, I think. At least the 10th
Wow.
show that's on my podcast. I'm looking through it. We've done some great shows in the past. We've covered Mockingbird a few times, Delphi murders. Really, one of my most listened to ones is the one I titled Madness, Magic, and Mass Murder, the Solar Order of the Solar Temple. We did that back in strange date, September 11th, 2024. We also did The Larger Network about the Atlanta child murders, which seems to kind of tie into today's topic.
Absolutely.
Catchers in the Rye. And I was on his show on February 11th. We talked about the Epstein files, which we're going to cover again as more and more information comes out. But you can go back and check those past shows. And there's a lot to talk about. He was telling me in the pre-show more files dropped. I guess there was an additional 60,000 files. Some mentioning Trump are in there. But I haven't had a chance to look at those. But I put stuff together. I've titled this one the Crisis Intake, because after he was arrested, all these stories came into the FBI, which we can see now in the file. So I didn't make it's voluminous. Like, I think my file that I put together is like 100 pages, but there's a lot more of those files. There's a lot in there, a lot to sift through, but it shows the inaction of the FBI, because all this stuff, like, these are like people telling you about murders and crimes and child trafficking, interstate traffic, and things like that didn't come through. But we can talk that. I have the files on that. I also did an Eyes Wide Shut kind of tie into Epstein, which we can talk about. Also, civil litigation. There's a lot to talk about. So, Austin, welcome to the show.
Thank you, William. As always, I appreciate you, and I look forward to our conversations, mainly because I feel as if, I don't know, the vast majority of people don't tend to, I don't know, maybe their attention isn't drawn to certain lines of interest that appeal more to our mentality and perspective just from overexposure due to prior cases and covering things that tend to very much activate that pattern recognition within, I do my best at all times to check my bias at the door and remain objective, obviously, but at times we're left with pure speculation, and it is the plight and the unfortunate position we find ourselves in on a daily basis, where we tend to have to put the connections and the dots together on our own. And otherwise, we tend to be led by the nose, by the very individuals who typically have cultivated and very much evolved these sophisticated methods of deception, and I like to reference them as mind manipulators that have learned how to misdirect the public's attention from what is most important to take away from, just as far as your conclusion, how you conclude and internalize most of this information, and in a way that I think hopefully you can rely on in the future, because that's where I find myself so frustrated, is in times like this, with the fog of war layered around us, and the level of limited hangouts and psychological warfare operations. Yeah, it's a lot to wade through. So I appreciate you, no doubt.
It's incredible. I mean, we arranged to have this talk, and in the time that we arranged it, the war started. So the war, we're supposedly not at war, at least according to Johnson, our Speaker of the House, says we're not at war. I guess blowing up little innocent kids halfway across the world does not conclude warfare. Somebody's book, but you talk about psyops and manipulation. I mean, it's just off the charts. I have to find out what's really going on from third parties, not even from my own government. I think they're lying about the body count, lying about everything. And this is one of the big things they're lying about.
Oh, yeah.
For people who don't know, they had 1,000 people working on redactions of these files starting in March of last year. And it's in the documents. They say it. We got 1,000 people doing these redactions. Why the cover up?
Yeah, and how many taxpayer dollars were devoted to that effort? And just so happens these newly released DOJ files in regard to Trump apparently were withheld accidentally, because the official narrative is in justification is they were apparently withheld due to being incorrectly marked as duplicates. Um, I would have to ask the vast majority of people in our audience if they believe that at face value.
No, there's so many other duplicates in the files. So like, oh, you were stressed about these particular duplicates. Like their lines
Mhm.
are even getting worse and worse. Like they're
Right.
just like slop. They just know
And
that nobody's going to do anything. I think that's what they're
oh yeah,
relying on.
exactly. And Wexner, I'm sure you noticed his little Kabbalah bracelet that
I'm
he's
sure I did.
wearing, while his attorney is leaning into him and providing him with this very sophisticated legal counsel of what was it? I'll kill you
Oh,
if you
shut
say
up or I'll
anything
kill
else
you.
more than
Yeah.
5 words. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, and let alone the symbolic nature of the occultism involved and layered throughout the files themselves. I mean, even just the event, right? Just considering that Epstein was allegedly 66 years old and 6 months when he dies, and then you have Prince Andrew. Coincidentally, being arrested on his 66th birthday by 6 police officers, exactly 666 days after these blood soaked royal horses escape and bolt through the streets of the UK and basically perform this strange behold a pale horse moment. Um, it's just difficult not to acknowledge those moments as well, right? And for what it's worth, I'm not entirely sure how to internalize it, but clearly there's an occult layer to all of this.
Yeah, deeper religious layer too. The drive for a third temple, Purim stuff. The
Mhm.
dreaded Persian. Things like
The
Amalek.
prophecy.
They're talking
Yeah.
about Amalek again, and this is. I mean, it's not occultism, but they're like these are things from thousands of years ago, guys. Like,
Yeah.
wow. Like
And
you're
I've
like these are old grudges. This isn't like a grudge from last year. This is like some kind of grudge you weren't even alive. Like holy smokes.
I know. And I very much considered the notion of just the manufactured false prophecy and the nature of the Zionist project and so many other layers to that effort of I think strategically infiltrating the institutions, whether it be religious institutions or educational institutions. Just pay attention because they're clearly being infiltrated by these just prominent pedophiles that seem to be perpetrators and just entirely tied into these networks of abuse and I saw you just post randomly about I mean it wasn't randomly but the CEO of Squatty Potty. I mean, what happened with him? I think he was brought up on yeah, creator of Squatty Potty, indicted for purchasing child sexual abuse material in Utah, I think it was. And I thought it was in your thread, I believe it was. You posted something about Krasner to Epstein. Do you remember this?
Yeah. Yeah, about Squatty Potty. And so then
Yeah.
the guy gets arrested in real time.
Mhm. And did
It's
you ever
interesting they can go over him. They can arrest him. There's been a lot of like child porn arrests out there, but they're not
Mhm.
getting anybody in the files.
No.
Like, what's up? Like, I can
Yeah.
see people getting arrested for child porn, but like, guys, there's tons of criminal acts in this files. They're just criminal after criminal act.
Mhm. Yeah, it forced me instantly to go look up this individual, who allegedly was the creator of Squatty Potty, this Utah man who was federally indicted for purchasing child pornography, and it's a strange story as to how he apparently gets basically charged with this, and it was through a Zoom call where they were sharing, and basically
Oh, wow.
he had been sharing child pornography depicting young children, and all of this had been, some of it was even purchased by him on Telegram and things of that nature. But I thought it was very strange because interesting enough, I mean, he according to the court documents, this is in March of 2021, and you have an FBI agent joining an online group known to trade child sexual abuse material. And so a user posted a Zoom meeting link, and when the agent entered the call, he finds the participants viewing child pornography. And So we have one adult male identified during the Zoom meeting, and investigators allegedly connected the account information to this individual of named by Edwards, who joined the call from Puerto Vallarta, which is apparently experiencing this destabilization in after this most recent drug kingpin was executed.
Right.
Right, which very strange how that happened, but anyway,
Right. Another
yeah,
decapitation strike, right? These
exactly.
are happening more and more common. It's weird how that happens, right?
Absolutely. And I saw that the first thing that I saw with this Squatty Potty connection was that there was obviously what you had posted was a reference not only to Kathy Griffin becoming the spokeswoman and being referenced in this this context as the spokeswoman for Squatty Potty and something about uh, Kathy telling people that they are full of shit being a part of the promo and this is also being tailored towards just the advertisements and material for promotional value are being allegedly tailored towards children and obviously their parents. But the point being is that whenever you see this video, this promo advertisement video that they had on their website, that was also referenced in your post, which was you may remember Squatty Potty's pooping unicorn video created by the Harmon brothers in 2015. And so I looked up that video and it's disgusting. I can't believe that no one flagged this as potentially damaging material being publicly exposed to young children. And also, how is this a valuable and effective just ad campaign in the first place for your product? I mean, who exactly do you want your clientele to become and reflect in a certain way, in my opinion? But anyway, there's a 20-second or 26-second clip that you'll have to let me show you in a moment if you don't mind, because that it's absolutely insane that
We'll
they
probably
ran
get
this.
kicked off of YouTube.
Oh, okay. Well, then I
Yeah.
won't show it. I won't show it
If
because
you put a link, we can put the link up. But
okay, sounds
this
good.
is it. This is like one of the
It's
things
yeah,
about it.
this is the problem. This is probably why I received that strike on YouTube, William, because I'm perfectly
In these days.
potentially too willing to just whenever something kind of shocks my sensibility and you know affects me in that way in which I cannot just honestly conceptualize the fact that this is being so overtly pushed forward in the public spotlight and no one's paying enough attention to do anything about it and push back and that's what's so extraordinarily upsetting you know to me personally because and this is no black pill. I do believe obviously there's hope in life in general, but it's a very individual I think it's based in individual sovereignty and what you can control in your own home and you know effectively insulate you and your family from the consequences of the permanent establishment as much as you possibly can. But this is still overwhelmingly disturbing if you just are
You
overexposed to it
guys
is the
go
point.
get this. I made this video. You can go check. I'm not going to bring it up on now, but I made it during Pizzagate, which was this video of the film Enchanted, where they had this freaking sequence. I'll put a link. It's in my Cult Hollywood series on one of the YouTube channels I got back. But I made it because there's like handkerchiefs, pizza, Molech, wizardry, mind control, memory, all in this one clip. And it was produced by this guy, Josephson. And then I'm reading the Epstein files, and there's Josephson talking to Jeff. And
Wow.
these are just coded stuff way back before Pizzagate in 2007. It's from the film Enchanted. I forgot the two actors' name, but
My gosh.
I wish I could show it to you. I'll send it to you right now. I mean, it's. I'll put the link in the show notes. I just can't do it on YouTube because they'll just demonetize it.
Right. Yeah.
And Joseph said his wife left him. So his wife left him over Jeff Epstein. She's like, she came out and literally said something in public. I had no idea he was really friends with him.
Wow.
It's the Enchanted is Amy Adams, Patrick Dempsey, James Marsden, and Barry Josephson's the dude. He's the producer.
My God. Yeah,
So
it's never ending when it comes down to it. As far as all that reminds me of is instantly the strange connection between, obviously, if you consider some of what you had sent me was regarding Leon Black. And I found that obviously very important, just due to his overwhelming connections to the Epstein network. But not only that, it was the fact that clearly through Apollo Global Management, there are much more disturbing connections to, I believe, avenues of opportunity to effectively procure children. And this is something that I think people should understand, is that these networks have systematically entrenched themselves to the point to where they can obtain legitimate bios in term and we're talking schedules. As far as, this is why the finders were essentially collecting intelligence on families and how they functioned, and when the parents were out of the home, when the children had no provider or protector in the home, and things of that nature. And it's just I thought of Athena Veronis, the fixer for the finders, right? Who effectively, she inevitably, I believe, took up a position that was I believe she conveniently became the first FBI liaison for NECMEC, is what it was, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children.
that's the way these guys do it.
Yes.
It's like the dual use. Like, oh yeah, I'm really interested, and then they're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
No. Like, oh yeah, that's why they joined the Boy Scouts or something. Like, hey, I'm helping these kids out. Or there's so many in these files. There are networks like of people who were, brought up in houses or from broken homes, like they're connected to Epstein.
Mm-hmm.
Interlochen, which I found out he donated $400,000 to Interlochen, this summer camp for children for the arts. So then you have kids from an artistic background. They're not the nerds. They're maybe better looking or something, because they're on stage, or they're more interested in their looks.
Wow.
And they're sending him all kinds of stuff. Jeff, you're just such a wonderful guy. Thanks for these great donations, and you've been such a help, and we're building a cabin because of you, and all this stuff. He's like, that's right. So the abuse, there was another one that this intake files where they said, how long is the abuse going on? And he said the response was 40 years. Like, it's not even funny. Like, but people knew that it was going on. So like, one of the things unfolding to me, it's not that it's just the abuse is going on. People are covering it up for decades. But yeah, these networks, I've got a thing from like an old file for this. I mean, you talk about Juarez and stuff. I talked about Juarez, but there's the thing you're talking about. You can see that highlighted. That's Life Touch, right? You want to talk about that?
Yes. My God. Yeah. When I found out that he's connected to this yearbook photo, essentially Life Touch being the largest school photography company in the United States, and is owned by Shutterfly, which was acquired apparently by the parent company. It's Shutterfly is the parent company of Life Touch, which was acquired by Apollo Global Management in 2019, I believe, which is Leon Black's company. I believe he was the former CEO.
Right?
Yeah. And
Jeffrey had $2.5 million invested in this. This is from his stuff in 2012. You can see it highlighted right there. Shutterfly, 2.5 mil.
That is
maybe
insane.
Maybe it's two tranches of 2.5.
They quoted Leon Black allegedly. I'm sure the numbers probably exceed this, but he reportedly paid Epstein upwards of $158 million for financial advice over several years. It's just, it's insane to, and I wonder about these names. I don't really think, like, to even set up shop in the U.S. Virgin Island, and I've heard translations of Zorro meaning things that are very eerily applicable to the network at large, and I wonder how much thought is truly put into the operation, and the strange confidence, the overconfidence of kind of implicating yourself and it's almost just to feel so insulated from accountability that you would be willing to flaunt this level of abuse out loud is it's just disgusting, you know. But anyway, yeah,
He
Black
got
was
away with it for so long. He had to
mhm.
have blackmailed or paid off a lot of the, authorities, politicians or something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and I think that comes in the form of, even the Thomas Pritzker connection, right, that we were discussing privately. I couldn't believe the level of connections with that family, and for me, it was emblematic of the political corruption in just, the political system in general, and how it's been structured and really set up against our own best interest and systematically entrenched to that effect. And I think the way in which the political elites can essentially rely upon that system and the structure of it, and as far as basically providing them with that just room for sort of removing themselves from any kind of a window of justice, and I think it's a very it's just a profound issue that's affecting society at large. And Thomas Pritzker himself, he's so basically the Pritzker family. I found it interesting because they seem to try and hide their ancestry and their family genealogy, and I feel like this happens very often within these elite political circles and the power paradigm in general. And I think Epstein himself, I think we talked about that on the last episode. Potentially his genealogy is far more tapped in to the political establishment and the power cabal than most people would probably imagine, and that rags to riches story was truly a false narrative, which most of them seem to be. I mean, Jeff Bezos's father was like finance DARPA or something. I mean, it's ridiculous to imagine that the LifeLog project wasn't Facebook. I mean, it's things of that nature, which people act as if these are genuine and authentic personalities rising to prominence. And I just feel like once you have been aware of Laurel Canyon and Lookout Mountain Laboratory and just the CIA liaison office to Hollywood and things of that nature, script writers from the agency, not just individuals providing advice on set. No, it's much more influential than that. And anyway, it's a whole nother point. It's just fascinating to me.
Your podcast is like aptly named because we're like literally looking into the parasite class. Who's
Mhm.
that? Who's that touching Leon Black over there? Who's that guy
Oh
on the
my
right? He looks
God.
familiar, doesn't he?
Yeah. No kidding.
And that's his like envoy dude with the suit there, and there's cover up Bondi, cover up artist with her cross out there.
My
She's
God.
playing a good part, man. Like they got her
Mhm.
playing a good role. But that's Leon Black hamming it up with Trump for people who are on audio.
Man.
Yeah, it's so bad. Like, I mean, and you can go into a show on Black, but apparently it's like the same thing. Like he does all kinds of like strange transactions and stuff. Like these guys are doing all short selling, penny stocks. There's all kinds of implications by this guy Dalio in the files. Like Epstein is doing all these like short selling and manipulation, market manipulation stuff. And it seems like a lot of these other guys are doing these kind of scams too. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I thought was so crazy about, well, Les Wexner's connection to the Ohio State University sex scandal is insane to me. And the fact that they have buildings on campus named after Les Wexner.
Can you
And
talk
that,
about that sex scandal? Some people don't know it, right?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's something that I think people should be far more aware of, right? It's because clearly it's something that, for one, when you have Jeffrey Epstein himself paying Ohio State University's head of gynecology quarterly payments of thousands of dollars, right? And just that alone is disgusting to imagine. But you have all these various emails that basically highlight how Epstein, Wexner, and even Maxwell were financially essentially giving major donations to Ohio State University over the course of several years. And it turns out that you have over the last, I don't know, probably over a month now, there were former Ohio State University athletes and survivors that were protesting on campus, and you had police that were just in aggressive conflicts with the protesters, forcefully removing them from campus. Over dozens were arrested and things of that nature, and all they were doing was demanding that Les Wexner comply with a subpoena to appear for questioning in this ongoing litigation that directly implicated sexual abuse by a former OSU team doctor whose name was Richard Strauss. And so, yes, so the protesters basically were claiming that they had been sexually abused by Strauss between the late 70s throughout the 90s. And so you had, like, in December, there was a board of trustees meeting that OSU had held, and so many of Strauss's victims were protesting in the back silently in the back of the room, holding all these signs of protest that read like "Where's Wexner?" and had images of Wexner and Jeffrey Epstein, and apparently Wexner was on this board of trustees from 88 to 97. And that's during part of the alleged abuse that's being tied to Strauss and when it occurred. And so he was also chairman from 96 to 97, and then served a second term on the board from like 2005 to like around 2012, I believe, is when he finally separated from the board. But anyway, they're calling for his name to be removed from the university buildings, obviously. And I saw this footage that Glenn Greenwald posted of an individual who was forced to go on leave because he physically assaulted what looked to be the age of a student, in my opinion. I'm not sure if he was a student or not, but seemed to be like some kind of content creating sleuth that was attempting to call him out on his connections to Les Wexner as far as the university and their unwillingness to remove these names from the university buildings. And because this individual himself, who's a part of the leadership on campus, I think he was even director or a dean. I can't remember now. He was very, very high up in the hierarchy of the university. But the point being is that he physically assaults this kid just for asking him a question about Epstein, and then acts as if he's the victim. And apparently he had made prior statements saying that it was basically cancel culture, and he would not have Les Wexner's name removed because it was just a product of cancel culture that it was being demanded in the first place. But yeah, specifically the buildings, you have the Les Wexner football complex. You have the Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center, which very much caught my attention, because what could you imagine being financed and strategically, just even if you had scientists on campus that were compromised by the network and fulfilling some sort of obligation on their behalf by performing some kind of scientific research for pedophilic abuse. You know, it's sort of how I internalized it, but obviously that's just speculation on behalf of, it's just the name of the building, but still, as we know, Epstein has very deep connections with the scientific community at large, and so it wouldn't be outside the realm of plausibility, in my opinion. But anyway, so you have donations from Wexner and his family, and his wife Abigail. Apparently, her name also appears on buildings around. Not just on campus, but just around Columbus, Ohio in general, one of which is a nationwide children's hospital and the Wexner Center for the Arts. Yeah,
that's the clip. That's the clip.
Yep,
right?
that's the clip. It's so gross to see someone behave like this as well, but especially around, I mean, he's supposed to be helping mold young people's minds. I mean,
hey, I'll teach you how to take down rando journalists.
for sure.
Attack random independent journalists.
Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, I mean, the New York Times is running articles saying the Epstein files should never have been released, William. I mean, what are we doing?
It's so important that they got released, guys. It's like really one of the 100%. Most important events.
The Times ran another headline that said pedophilia, a disorder, not a crime. I mean,
Look at
This
these
is our
kids, they're
mainstream media.
ruined. Go look at the victims, guys. The victims' lives are all messed up. They have anxiety. They were threatened. They're followed,
Yep.
like eyes wide shut, like they knew who the victims were and would call them. That's what it says in these intake things. Like I would get called once a year. Somebody would threaten me. The
Mhm.
one document about the civil litigation where there's a 5-year-old child, there's like threats on their phones, rando threats from people from Israel.
Yeah.
Like, give me a break. Like, this is not a crime. These are criminal acts.
Right.
And the fact that they're not doing anything is just should shock the conscience. And the fact that people aren't talking about it are huge tells. So the
Yes.
corporate media is captured. It's captured by an enemy influence, the demonic enemy influence who preys off of children. So I would say, at least like they're morally culpable. They're not criminally culpable, but they're morally on the side of evil. All those people, they should all quit. Like, how can
Yeah.
you even go to work for these people? You're not covering the story. It's an industrial sized rape ring with infants and kids and prepubescent kids and people who've disappeared.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
I know. And I think when you see that Wexner potentially has connections to Israeli organized crime, in many ways, which is the kosher mafia, in my opinion. And I think people need to understand Roy Cohn was a prominent figure in that system of power that was clearly, you had this intersection where you had plausible deniability being brought, essentially, provided by basically this overwhelming unholy alliance, as Paul Williams references it in Operation Gladio, his book, right, which is just this crossroads between the intersection of the unholy institutions of the Vatican, which clearly Mother Teresa was involved. I mean, Epstein was in business with her. Not only Epstein, but apparently, I mean, clearly Hillary was in business with her as well, with the child orphanage, I believe it was, and knowing that she's pictured with Robert Maxwell and things of that nature. But yeah, the way I have read it many times in the past is that this was potentially just Roy Cohn's sexual blackmail operation passed off to Jeffrey Epstein and Les Wexner, and they became Ghislaine, obviously being a major factor due to her father's influence. But when you have just the level of corruption within such a major educational institution like an Ohio State University, I mean, it's baffling to me that and I think it was even you had I believe it was Jim Jordan was specifically brought up in this context because he effectively was notified of one of the team doctors masturbating in front of a young person in the shower. And he just.
My understanding is that shower was like a cruising spot,
Mhm.
And the same thing happened in the showers of Penn State. If you remember the Penn
Yeah.
State.
Absolutely.
What was his name? What was the guy's name who the Epstein, these guys. So they just find one and they blame him and they go, okay, we're done. What was
It
the
was
guy's
Sandusky, right?
Sandusky,
Yeah.
good memory. The Sandusky, they did the same thing, but it was like a network. They all covered up. And then Louis Free comes in from the FBI.
Yep.
Oh, it's just Sandusky. He's just a local perv. He has a problem. And
Right.
and that stuff happened in the showers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the first thought I had was, well, I mean, clearly I was already disturbed by the Penn State scandal, but it made me look at it much differently in terms of just the strange connection between that of this OSU scandal and the Wexner tie-in.
Goes back to the show we did on the networks where we like pieced it together in live action, like, okay, so these guys are overlapping with these guys, and then you've got, what is it, Genesis, or what's the guy who was part of it had the Greek reference or whatever, Odyssey, was it the Odyssey group?
Oh, the Zodiac.
So that's another one. That's another Zodiac
okay.
Secret Society is in these documents.
Right.
I thought there was like the pedo group.
There was.
I forgot the name of it, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's overlaps with them and freaking Michigan, Ohio. I mean, what Jeffrey Epstein shows is this is an international network, and you talk about the kosher mafia.
Right.
It just shows like there's so much going on underneath the surface with Epstein.
Mm-hmm.
Not just
Definitely.
there's possibly drugs. There was a 5-year drug investigation in these files on him,
Right.
and trafficking and financial stuff. So the way he operated, there's a lot under the surface, under the table. Yes, a lot of sub rosa stuff that we haven't even gotten to the point. I think Ghislaine Maxwell needs to be retried. Like,
Oh yeah. Absolutely. And you brought up the connection to the summer camps, and the first thought I had was this new scandal that I was introduced to called the Kennecook camps, which I had no idea, and that's shocking to me because geographically it's far too close in proximity to where I grew up in Northwest Arkansas. The headquarters and where it was created was basically in Branson, Missouri, and it's this global network of Christian summer camps for children and teens around 6 to 18 years old. And
how do you spell that? How do you spell
it? Very German. Kanakuk. Yeah, it's Kanakuk, and camps is even spelled with a K. But yeah, apparently largest Christian sports camp, and it was around 2010 when you had their camp director Peter Newman, who was convicted of child sex abuse, and it was around 2020 when there were many more civil lawsuits that were filed, and it became a major scandal against the camp for underage sexual abuse, and the leadership being well aware of the abuse taking place. And you had media reports through these civil lawsuits and criminal prosecutions that documented that Kanakuk camps created a culture that allowed predators access to underage children. Nudity was part of the camp culture, including communal showers and physical inspections of naked campers. Yeah, at one of the camps, counselors and campers all showered together with no separate stalls or partitions. They had an employee playbook, and apparently Newman and White and the other counselors had conversations about purity, sex, and masturbation with the kids and things of that nature. But yeah, he himself was made the fall guy in a way because again they were all well aware of the abuse taking place, and I think it was mainly about managing the reputation and the reputational consequence and effects that obviously would follow. And so you had all these kids being forced under these non-disclosure agreements after being sexually abused, and we're talking just a level of
How can you say that? They say right here on their website they've never used NDAs.
Right. Yeah, sure. But yet you read through the tragic story of Trey Carlock is one of the victims, and he was 28 years old, right? And he was basically forced back through this civil litigation that re-traumatized him even more so than he was prior to just having to endure another civil litigation process, and it was against Kanakuk Ministries. And so basically, Peter Newman groomed and sexually abused Trey, and the claim is hundreds of others, potentially even thousands, were abused, right? And but specifically with him, there were countless. Civil litigation. There's so many different lawsuits that were filed and allegations made and things of that nature. But so Trey, he goes through originally they filed the civil litigation by the age of 23, and this is required due to Texas civil statute of limitations for child sex abuse cases. And so his abuse became known through a criminal investigation in like 2009. And Kanakuk, they forced settlements on John Does like Trey, which included restrictive NDAs, silencing the victims, and covering up what Kanakuk knew about Newman, and apparently along with also concealing other important information from the public, obviously through the NDAs, by keeping them silent. And Trey told a therapist just before he took his own life, he said, "They will always control me and I'll never be free." And he committed suicide at 28 years old. And I just like, I watched you remember when you showed me that Vice News clip of that short
Yes, yeah.
documentary on
Taboni
Epstein?
was the girl's name. Yeah, for Hosanna Church.
Yes, which is so disturbing, man. And but I will say that and it's clearly up to you, but if you wanna play the first 3 minutes of this, it's just absurdly, shocking, to your core as far as something like this being covered up in real time, and I thought the Vice coverage, at least the first 3 to 6 minutes, man, I watched 3 minutes of it, and I just emotionally I broke down for a brief moment. I turned away from the computer, and I just had to compose myself, and take a second because it's just it's overwhelming. It's just so overwhelming to see how many different cases we can point to that directly overlap and relate so just to see the direct relationship in which the abuse takes place and how much it just parallels so many of these prior networks that we've covered. It's something I don't really. It's it's something that is too sinister to accept, and that's something that I believe I described in my Marc Dutroux episode. Is that, I mean, when how long can we essentially just allow or stand idly by, I believe is the way that I put it, while the true intentions of our ruling class remain beyond the veil of public scrutiny. And I thought, just because of how much I never expected these files to expose so much of what they have, honestly, and that in itself is some sense of a victory for people like ourselves. But my issue lies in the misdirection, in the short memory of the public, in the reality of the fact that this continues, this sadistic process and systematic nature of this abuse, it continues unabated. And until we have some viable avenue to push back and basically restructure this system to no longer provide this protection for the pedophile class. I mean, for pedophiles to be basically offered a protected class, and to some extent, I mean, that is essentially what's happening with the normalization of pedophiles in America, and the level that people are now aware of it, but yet still will be, in some sense of the word, deceived into engaging back in the very same process that led to this outcome. That is what I find so just frustrating, because it's a choose your own pedophile reality simulation at this point, and I do not understand how people are affected by the bipartisan pendulum swing as if there is a two-party system. I mean, this is a delusion, and by
Epstein's a
design.
perfect thing because he's manipulating people in both parties.
Exactly.
Manipulating. This is a perfect example. Is there? He's puppeteering them. And probably his whole predator class is doing that too. They're all just stage
100%.
actors.
Exactly. And that was I mean, it's honestly what I thought was so interesting about just obviously Edgar Madison Welch and his father, right? That's the thing, that when you mentioned that that connection to Epstein and Enchanted, right? The first thought I had was of Edgar Madison Welch's father, Harry Welch Jr., who clearly we've mentioned before that he owned Forever Young Productions, but also served very much like Athena Veronis and, oh, I don't know, Laura Silsby, let's say, things of that nature. And what did he serve as executive director for? Protect the Child, a national nonprofit organization meant to prevent abuse and abduction of children.
Wow, see, that's the way they do it, man. They get involved in these things. This is the guy
Mhm.
who was a billionaire in Russia, decided to shoot himself in the head. His name
Wow.
is Umar Javrokov or something.
My God.
Jabrov. And this is from the Epstein file. So this is his younger days, goofing it up. So this is just another death. There'll be, I think these files, people's lives will be ruined, their reputations ruined, but there'll be Probably more dead bodies, I guess.
Oh yeah, definitely. I feel like there's some sort of a cleanup that's already taking place. I mean,
Dude,
seeing that,
bro,
what
can
was
you
that?
imagine like the meetings, like the public relations meetings these guys are doing
Oh
like,
my
behind the scenes? Like, oh my God, they can find this. Like, I'm sure Andrew was sweating. Like, he
Oh
got
yeah.
freaking first arrest in 400 years. That's
Was he
crazy.
sweating though, William?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's the funniest thing.
The
Him and
thing
Peter
is
Thiel,
that have
man.
you seen this report about like him being implicated in the actual death of some young
Epstein.
girl?
Oh no, no, I don't
Yeah,
think I
let me see
have.
if I can find that. Somebody did some great research. Let me see if I can find it. But yeah, God,
Man,
so bad.
I
I
knew.
don't want to play that file because
Oh yeah, no.
then I won't be able to monetize it. And it's just like, and then
I'm
they'll, I
sorry,
mean,
William.
I'm expecting to get it taken away. I'm
Right.
expecting my YouTube channel to be taken away. So
Hmm.
just an FYI to everybody.
It feels inevitable at this point
Yeah,
for
it
me
sure
as well,
does.
but yes, I'm
This
not.
guy, okay, this is it. This. You want to go to disturb route? Zelensky's implicated in this stuff.
Oh
That's
my
what
God.
people hasn't made the connection yet. Is this Ukraine connection?
Right.
Oh, yeah, this
Wow.
is
Well,
so
you know
bad,
what?
dude.
That instantly makes me think of the Ukraine connection to, believe it was Pritzker, which I thought was fascinating. And but I did see that you saw the Princess Di connection, right? That
Can
was
you
fascinating.
tell me about that?
So basically, you have in 2015, there's this journalist who emailed Jeffrey Epstein a series of fact checking questions for a New York Magazine profile
On
article that
January
was
30th,
unpublished at the time.
2026.
Mhm.
And apparently, among them was, did you attend the 1994 Serpentine Gallery Gala? Did you socialize with Princess Diana at this event? And so apparently there was no response in the files, but there were many different allegations at the time surrounding this apparently being the reality, which has now been fully acknowledged and vindicated, which the night in question being June 29th, 1994. It's a fundraising gala hosted by Vanity Fair, interestingly enough, which would go forward and have that story connected in with Epstein intimidating and threatening the journalist with, I believe, the head of a cat, wasn't it? They decapitated a cat and left it on her doorstep. And yeah, which was just like, oh, okay, message sent. I'm not entirely sure to what exact detail you were attempting to, evoke as far as the emotional understanding. I'm sure the cat had some sort of meaning behind it, but who knows? Anyway, point being though is that this Vanity Fair gala where Princess Di allegedly attended on the very same night that Prince Charles publicly admits to having his affair with Camilla. And so it turns out Epstein himself wrote about the very night in question. He says in 1994, just at the moment when Prince Charles is on television acknowledging his love for Camilla Parker Bowles, this is in the files. Jeffrey Epstein, he wrote about this, is sitting with his arm around Princess Diana at a dinner at the Serpentine Gallery in London while she's wearing the very revenge dress apparently that evening. And so I
Is there
just
a
thought,
picture of that, or is there a
there,
picture of her with Epstein?
I haven't found it, no,
Okay.
but I have. I saw pictures of them at the event, but I haven't seen pictures of them together at the event. Just them showing up to the event, which I thought was, kind of strange. You would think that would instantly be made public as if it were true. So hopefully that comes to fruition, but you never know. It just
There is
instantly
an
caught my
article
attention.
about it, so that's it. So that's her revenge dress. Let's see.
Isn't that strange? I mean, my God, understanding the connection he had with Prince Andrew for one, but I mean, as I mentioned before, he's involved in the same business as Mother Teresa at some point, which I do believe was an international child sex trafficker and abuser as well, and I mean, allegedly earned like up to $100 million annually for the Vatican, but that's just according to many different allegations. But I think it was a baby doctor, the Haitian. It was also a connection with the Haitian dictator, which I thought very strange, considering the Laura Silsby connection in with the Clinton Foundation, and obviously I think I believe someone in my audience. I'm sure he's probably a member of yours as well. His name's Uncle Ted. He shows up quite frequently, but he mentions promise very often, and I do think promise is something that people should consistently overexpose themselves to the details in regard to that. Not only the Hamilton lawsuit events law, but the connections of the Promise software scandal. And I mean, Danny Castellero died for a reason, right? This octopus of global control is very real. But anyway, the point being is that you had a criminal involved in the savings and loan scandal. Charles Kading, I believe, was his name, and then Robert Maxwell, 30th. Obviously, and apparently it's you have Mother Teresa co-founding a DC toddler home. So it wasn't an orphanage, but technically, I mean, speaking, with Hillary Clinton. So I just think it's too hard to, separate these things. There's no real distinction in my mind anymore. And especially considering the overlap with that of Roy Cohn and this very same operation, I don't see a distinction between the two. And it's hard to at least, I would love to be provided with a rational and detailed explanation as to how they are separate organizations. I mean, the Finders feels the very same to me. Why else did they have those nodes, those private computer nodes set up in the Finders property in DC, where they're in dialogue with the Chinese embassy about procuring Chinese children? What are we doing?
Unbelievable. Like, we don't know the totality. Like, I found another one of these intake things of Epstein in Mexico. Like, I've never heard that. Like, he was actually in Mexico. So he's bouncing around. I don't think his flight logs are honest.
No.
I don't think anything's honest. He's just as crooked as a dog's leg, is what they would say, like in Arkansas or in Branson or
yeah, exactly.
But, this video, I don't know. It's so disturbing. But it's like this girl's just missing. They're talking about like this thing. Whoever formerly Prince Andrew is over. That is a girl in puberty. That is not a fully grown woman. So
it's a child.
Yeah.
On January 30th,
can you hear the audio on this?
Yes.
The U.S. Department of Justice released a mass.
I wish I could credit this guy. I forgot. I don't know who made this video. So if somebody knows in the chat, got 300 people in the chat. So thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for being here. Listen to this. This is bad.
Tranche of files related to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Among thousands of documents, several files shed light on the ties between Jeffrey Epstein and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. On January 3rd, 2010, Yehor Skaliha, at the time the owner of the Ukraine-based casting agency Centrocast, wrote an email.
So there you go. More casting agencies, more, they're farming for victims. Yeah. They all are. Elite Modeling, all these other people.
Wrote an email to Epstein describing a 13-year-old girl with an acting background. Epstein replied asking the girl's location, to which Skaliha replied that the girl is in Mariupol, Ukraine, and that she has a Schengen visa and is...
What's a Schengen visa? Do you know what that is?
No.
I don't either.
Free to travel any day. 2 weeks later, Sofia Jilenkova, a 13-year-old Ukrainian girl, went missing in Mariupol. The Ukrainian media describe her exactly as the person Skaliha told Epstein about. 173 centimeters tall, medium build, waist-length light brown hair. She was never found. It's highly likely that Sofia was trafficked to the U.S. and is...
How can you say it's highly likely? But the fact that she disappeared, like how many other disappeared kids are in this? Like this is just one. Like they have to go back through and where's Jeff and where's his plane and where have kids disappeared? Like Johnny Gosh or like some of these other ones. Like that's how serious. The fact that the government hasn't like apportioned funds to actually investigate this and the public's doing it.
Right.
I think that I think the Epstein files are going to reverberate and just realize your government, the total government is corrupt as hell to the bone and wicked. Like this is evil stuff. This is wickedness.
It's actually the
100%.
person in the pictures with Prince Andrew. The timing of her disappearance matches Prince Andrew's last official meeting with Epstein in December 2010 in New York City. The surroundings in the pictures match the interior of Epstein's mansion.
They're sending emails to each other like Epstein's joking that he's a pedo. That's a kid too. That looks like a kid there. Who's this person? Is that a little girl they're talking to? That
It looks like it to
it
me.
looks like it. Just high. Woody Allen is tiny. Like I don't think he's like 5'2".
Mm-hmm.
So you can see this other person, this other girl with blonde hair, that she should be identified. But who's that? Like what's going on there?
Right.
They said they're pedos to each other. Like have you seen that email where he's joking around?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
hey, yeah, we're just hanging, just me and the pedos or whatever, something like that.
In another email from Scaliha, dated January 11th, 2011, he wrote, "Too bad the prince did our little actress dirty." It's not quite clear what Scaliha means, but in another file, a different girl is mentioned who was sold for sex and torture. And the email mentions that Prince Andrew was an accessory to her death.
Man.
Is he tortured her and me to force her murder? Tortured her and me? What the funk is this? This is so dark. Like they probably busted him on state secrets because maybe they knew more stuff. Like you would have to think that the king has the best intel, or like at the top intel people in the world, like access to the real stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe my assumption is they were like, oh, there was that other thing about Andrew and the party. Did you read that testimony where from the 90s where they like took some girl to a farm and did her like horrible stuff? Did you see that one? Yeah.
I did. And I saw it. Honestly, it was like a couple of months ago. I saw that biographer or historian. I think his name was, he's like a UK historian or something. And his name's Andrew Lowney, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah,
Andrew
I've had him
Lowney.
on my show, Andrew Lowney.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, I
Oh,
had him
wow.
we talked about Mountbatten.
Yes.
See, I didn't know a lot of the stuff about Mountbatten, but
the Anglo-Irish spice ring, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going to Malta
Kinkora.
for boys and girls.
Mm-hmm.
These guys are doing that, man. It's so freaking bad. Like when you see the big picture, it's just like this is the predator class, man.
Absolutely. And basically, Roy Cohn trafficked Richard Kerr from the Kinkora boys' home and raped him. I mean, this is a legitimate.
I didn't know that either.
Yes, and this is how it was described. Was just as far as at the time when Kinkora broke publicly, a honey trap baited with children. Put simply, MI6, MI5, and the RUC, the Royal Ulster Constabulary or whatever it is, I forget, special branch.
Ireland or whatever, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, they ran Kinkora and other child care homes as honey traps to ensnare and blackmail unionist politicians and paramilitaries who abuse children. It's just whenever you discover this fact and that it connects to some strange Freemason groups from the UK that apparently were involved with staging the civil strife within Northern Ireland at the time and breaking into the separate, like all of this destabilization was essentially just a gladio technique on an operation ran by these alpha Freemasonic lodges that were apparently involved in what became Operation Clockwork Orange, which was a major component to basically there was one individual, his name was I believe he was coined as the man who knew too much is what they basically referenced him as, and he went through like this major smear campaign following his account and witness testimony being made public. But apparently he was you had Operation Clockwork Orange was basically this security services project from the British intelligence to basically create this a black propaganda technique that would help destabilize and overthrow the British Prime Minister, Harold Wilson, which apparently that was all involved in a strategic coup d'etat with the British intelligence at the time. And this is just leading up to the green light of Operation Clockwork Orange. So apparently they kind of ushered in their own political puppets to then basically give them and provide them the green light necessary to go forward with this operation of destabilization. But it's fascinating stuff, because this guy Colin Wallace, he's basically involved in psychological operations and intelligence in Northern Ireland, and he tells a story of running around and destroying, not only destroying but staging satanic ritual abuse, child sacrifice sites all throughout Northern Ireland. And I found that to be insane because of how much you had the connection directly in with this pedophile ring that MI5 and MI6 are protecting, basically, and I think you also had you basically had one individual through Colin Wallace, right? Because he's talking about walking into the lion's den and having to go through all of this terrible fallout. And it reminded me of what's his name, customs agent Ramon J. Martinez from The Finders, because of the level of fallout that essentially destroyed his reputation and things of that nature. But it's a very sad story, honestly, when you go through it. But it all connects to Lord Mountbatten and the Anglo-Irish vice ring. And man, whenever you begin to realize that Trump's mentor was so deeply involved in this sex trafficking operation in Kincora, and Richard Kerr, he was selected in Belfast and taken to Venice for sexual abuse.
Taken to Venice, Italy.
Yeah, and Cohn was apparently he was connected in with the Anglo-Irish vice ring in London. And the link apparently came through a Texan living in London called Fred Ferguson, who was a pedophile and also knew Dr. Morris Fraser, which this guy was a psychiatrist. And it's so crazy to actually see what these people were attempting to do. Basically set up a structured Manchurian program to create submissive boy soldiers for the children involved in the network. And yeah, it's one of the most strange and extraordinary cases that I've ever basically introduced myself to. But after learning of this child psychiatrist, Dr. Roderick Morrison Fraser, he's someone that you could basically do an entire show devoted to this man. And he was directly, I mean, he was a pedophile who essentially was given just basically protected entirely by his commitment and involvement in the operation itself. And it's sad to actually see him get off without any sort of justice being brought forward for him whatsoever. But I believe even people came forward of prominence who would speak on his character on his behalf when he was brought up on any charges. And so, as always, it seems like this is just the way in which these networks function and are typically, facilitate these cover-ups and things of that nature. But yeah.
So here's my interview with Lowney. You mentioned Lowney. I didn't mean to take you out of your stream of thought, but I did an interview with him 4 years ago. It's still on one of my YouTube channels, so you can check that out. I put a link in the show notes. But Mountbatten's dirty, man. He's dirty. When they killed him off the coast of Ireland, he was on a boat with like 2 teen boys or something, That was just his thing. There's pictures of him with King Charles all the time, King Charles III.
Absolutely. And I think they, along with Jimmy Savile, would procure children from these orphanages and child care homes, and then they would never return, basically, is what would happen.
Wow. Savile's in the Epstein files in multiple places, coming to the United States, to New Orleans, of all places.
Wow.
So there's an overlap. And Mountbatten got King Charles III into the magic circle. Do you know who else is in the magic circle? It's in Eyes Wide Shut at the end, but it's also Copperfield and Blaine are all members of this magic circle.
Oh my God.
So there are overlaps with the Europe guys and Epstein. It's off the charts. And there's, stuff about Copperfield, his real name is like Kotkin or something like that. But it's he's been accused of drugging people. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah.
And he has his own island.
Oh my
So
God.
like there's overlaps with their own islands. Epstein's going to Branson's island. Like, hey, let's go cruise over there. So Epstein's totally networked.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is insane, man.
It
Just
is absolutely insane.
and seeing like the Peter Nygaard, just as an example, obviously conducting the very same sort of operation and even procuring himself an island that apparently many of the natives would go missing around the area, and a lot of missing persons related to that.
No kidding.
Insane to me. But Mountbatten was basically a close. Obviously, he was a close friend with Jimmy Savile, the necrophiliac and child rapist, and that was in the Mountbatten dossier. Oh my God, that's one of the most disturbing things you could ever expose yourself to. Talk about utterly depraved collection of perverts. These guys are not just child molesters; they're sadists. They go to a level that
torturing people. Yeah,
exactly, man. I mean, it's insane.
Incredible stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's this is like some kind of GM. So Ghislaine Maxwell read. They're talking about a picture, and it's sent. So this is FBI, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is one of them. That's her in a red leather coat. I went on a bathroom, Blake. I thought they were spying us. I kept seeing them around. I took pictures of them spying us. Something to be said about that strange feeling. Made 2 copies of pics. One is for me, blank. The other's a whole series. I think the girl in the long blazer is blank. I was in a hotel with them when she came out of the elevator. So photographers with Ghislaine Maxwell, I think, took pics, and she was told, and so his girlfriend and a famous author of children's books. I'm guessing they were all there. So they were all in New Orleans at the Jimmy Savile event.
Wow.
The trade show was during Mardi Gras. It's right around this time.
My God.
Yeah.
What year was that? Did you
2021? But they're going over the documents. So this is
right.
Like FBI analyzing past documents. But Savile's mentioned.
Oh my God, man!
Here's the other one. And Savile's a member of the Temple of the Sun, an ONIA adjunct.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't even write this stuff.
No.
Like here he is in his weird wizard coat.
Yep. Yeah, and that's another thing people would say about Savile is that he believed he was basically a wizard, and that his unlit cigar was his wand. Yeah. And I always found that to be interesting.
Whenever they do this, this is a sign of initiation. This is a Masonic sign. So his hand placement there is all intentional. I could do a whole other show on that stuff.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I found to be so throughout the research into Mountbatten was the fact that there was a major dossier the FBI had on him following World War II. And it basically within it, the FBI compiles all these different documents and allegations and character references that people had made on the record. And you have, I think, one individual claiming that apparently in these circles that Mountbatten and his wife were considered to be persons of extremely low morals, is the way that it was described. And her opinion of him was that he was an unfit man to direct any sort of military operations because of this condition. She stated that his wife, Lady Mountbatten, was considered equally erratic. And so obviously Mountbatten, after World War II, becomes NATO commander of Allied forces in the Mediterranean, admiral of the fleet, and then later on becomes chief of the defense staff. And you had an individual named Norman Neild, who was Mountbatten's personal driver between 42 and 43. He specifically says that at the time, Mountbatten was living in a large house in Fareham, Hampshire, near Portsmouth. And according to Neild, Mountbatten was a boy lover and a sexual deviant who preyed on young boys to fulfill his bizarre sexual fantasies. He used brandy and lemonade to help seduce his young victims. And so apparently Alfred Arnold was the Prime Minister of Northern Ireland's aide and the pedophile who set up the Anglo-Irish Vice Ring, of which Lord Mountbatten was the highest-ranking born member. And so anyway, it's just fascinating to see that through the AIVR, you have all these different connections to prime ministers all throughout the region, not just Northern Ireland and not just the UK, and you have secretaries and private secretaries that are involved in basically facilitating the abuse network, and privates. What they would have is, and this came up in the context of Savile as well, with like that interview he does publicly on a talk show, and references the story of basically trafficking a child in the boot of a car into the royal palace, and acts like it's perfectly normal, and even laughs it off in a way. But they use these strange what are they called whenever they're basically ushered around by a private driving service. Damn it. You know the term. It's just eluding me at this point. But the point being is that chauffeur. They have these chauffeur operations that they set up. This happened in Detroit as well, with a fleet of cars. Right, there were a fleet of Mercedes Benzes that were connected to the Detroit affair, and I found out that obviously they're abducting children with police protection in this network. Right, but at the same time, through the interesting story of these fleet of cars, it turns out that they're also basically physically surveilling and following these potential candidates for abduction. And so they would identify them by having, we're talking teachers that were implicated as being involved in the network, one of which even being Michelle Martin, Dutroux' second wife, who was also a teacher. And I find that interesting because it seems like it's just a great opportunity and avenue for them to be around children and get more intelligence information on which would be likely candidates for their operation. And that's what's it's disgusting to see, honestly, but it's what I think people should be more aware of, right? Is that this is very much, there is a system in place for how they basically stay, I think, insulate themselves from being overexposed in a way. And that comes
Austin, I hate to interrupt, but I think we should just quit ahead. Because Donald Trump wrote that the new scam is forever called the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. And my past supporters have brought into this bullshit hook, line, and sinker. Mm-hmm. We should just stop. Come on.
Yeah. I think we should. I mean, at this point,
everything we've just said for the last hour and 10 minutes is just hogwash. I mean, the enormity of this is just like, I don't know if I can, I don't know. Like, it's really taxing me. Like, it's so explosive. These guys are up to no good. And the cross-national connection between Epstein and Maxwell and Savile, like, wait till more of this stuff comes out. Like, you get connected to Savile, that's terrible. Like, 100%. He was connected to the Yorkshire Ripper. You ever see a picture of him with the Yorkshire Ripper?
Oh yeah, honestly,
so, yeah, like, I mean, it's bad. Pardon?
It's ridiculous because you had mentioned the sun worshiper just connection into to that of Savile, and I think it is fascinating the connection in with the AI VR and the exploitation of the failed state of Ireland at that time, being kind of a hub for this purpose, and I think that applies directly to Ukraine as well, obviously, and a reason in which we see Ukraine referenced so often in the files, but I think with the occult history of Ireland, I was unaware, right, that in their constitution, the 1920 Northern Ireland Constitution, Freemasonry
when
was
they went
awarded,
independent, right?
Yes, Freemasonry was awarded a special status, and apparently it's a recognition of some concealed role in the province's triumphant struggle to stay in the United Kingdom and out of the Irish Free State. This is allegedly the case, and so you have this is when the Irish Republican Brotherhood and things of that nature would become the IRA, and you had like the Fenian Brotherhood apparently, which were also revolutionaries but interested in a freedom, just the freedom of Ireland in general. And but yeah, they were a part of a plot that, as I mentioned before, was divided by the Alpha Lodge or Alpha Lodges of the British Freemasonry organizations and executed by British intelligence through Operation Clockwork Orange. And so the Crown controlled the Brotherhood and had the power to apparently send trained agents to infiltrate legitimate Irish patriot groups. It sounds exactly like, PatCon and COINTELPRO in a certain way. It's a Gladio operation, is the way it definitely reads. And whenever you kind of realize that you had these interesting groups that appeared legitimate at the time, and apparently there's a festival day which happens to fall on July 13th, which I think was the day that at least one of the assassination attempts that feels like political theater kayfabe for Trump was on July 13th, and I found that interesting. But it is an occult holiday and a day sacred to Antinous sun worshippers.
What?
Specifically, yes.
What?
So
That ties right into Pizzagate. That was the
Mhm.
picture on Jimmy Comet was Antinous.
Exactly. So
Wow.
they called the AIVR and the occult history of Northern Ireland a Setian Antinous drama, which basically played out through this political, conflict and strife over, years and years. I mean, it was a long-standing operation in a way, but order out of chaos, as they say. And I think that's exactly what plagued Ireland at that time. And it's just, again, another sad example that we can reference. And my God, to see the human hunting parties and referenced in the files, and how much that overlaps as well. I mean, that's called the End Circuit. It's the reason they publish and produce snuff films as well. It's not just the human hunting parties, right, which seem to be ritualistic in nature and a part of their occult practices, but it's almost like the pedophile. What's the term? Subscription model, right? Which came in the just as far as the best example of that is pretty much the Odyssey Foundation, and the Delta
Odyssey
Project,
Foundation.
yeah, and Wayne Williams. I mean, which overlaps as well, but it's too much, William.
Some sick freaking people out there, guys. There you are,
Mhm.
some sick freaking people. This is one of the interesting ones. He seemed to know Savile, like they're mentioning. Here's one where they're mentioning Savile. Let's see. This is like the brutal stuff about Andrew and Ghislaine. I
Right.
found another one today where they're like, "Oh yeah, Ghislaine is like totally evil. She's evil and rotten to the bone or something like that." But here's like, "Dear Mr. Berman, CC'd, I think Jeffrey Epstein et al. For my email yesterday, I got some notes someone sent me in February where North Yorkshire police a child cure for the elite Jimmy Savile. Sponsored on child abuse." So this is like, I think somebody at some field office is talking about it, but then this is like the kicker is this one. Shoot. This is like the intake. So after the arrest, 2021, it's a lot longer, but she went to George Washington High School. This is supposedly a pornographic magazine that Epstein was in. She went to New York. She went to law school. In around 1988-89, started the billion-dollar business, blank trade shows, and met people. In attendance, a trade show in New Orleans that was full of adults and men in attendance, including Jimmy Savile, described Savile as a sexual deviant. Went to a lot of trade shows and a lot of international travel. So this is like trademark type stuff, right? Like this is what these rich people do. They go to trade shows, or people, international business. Heard a conversation in Switzerland. Children flew to the United States. People she heard this conversation were from the same people that were having parties with Savile. Blank cannot remember their names. Savile had a partnership with blank, was owned by Dr. Ernst Gubler. I couldn't find him. Blank described Zubler as a sexual deviant. Gubler showing up with his wife Helga. She was beautiful, needed to have Gubler comfortable. Gubler was involved with Glenn and Eva, so Dubins, right? Gubler pulled out a chain that had a blank on it, a penis. Gubler told he drank the blood of children. It reinvigorated his sex life.
Wow. That's
Dubin said she was
insane.
a sex slave. And we know, like, it corroborates because we know Jouffre said she was first trafficked to Dubin And there's pictures of him all over these new files too, Dubin. He's
My
hanging out
God.
with Jeff and hanging out and there's like kids and stuff. Like it's creepy.
Right. Yeah, I think that Virginia people have basically claimed that she was mentioning that she was sex trafficked to an individual that was basically had, I think it was a major hotel chain that he had created himself. I think it was basically an implication that it was Thomas Pritzker, I believe it was, right, who is involved with Hyatt Hotels and apparently has a longstanding relationship with apparently business conflicts with Donald Trump and things of that nature. But it's far more than that. I mean, I think he was even listed in the files. He appeared on the list that Epstein sent to himself the week before he was arrested. And the subject line read, "List for Steve Bannon." I thought that was interesting. But yeah, I mean, Pritzker himself, obviously member of the major Pritzker family, which I had mentioned earlier. And this family is one of the wealthiest families in the entire United States, right? And apparently they own this trade credit or TransUnion Credit Bureau and things of that nature. And multiple companies are a part of this Hyatt Hotels Corporation and Marmon Group or something, some sort of conglomerate that they're a part of. But the point being is they're of Jewish descent. It's a part of the reason why I believe they attempted to, at the very least, disguise their genealogy and their ancestry to a certain point. And they were based in Chicago, which we know Chicago is very much a corrupt hub within the domestic U.S. I mean, the Obama connections come at least are referenced within this context with the Pritzker connection, because obviously I think it's J.B. Pritzker is Thomas's cousin, and the current governor of Illinois. I think he was the former mayor, if I remember correctly. But either way, he's obviously a key political player and very much prominent and has significant influence in the Democratic Party. And Penny Pritzker is another cousin of Thomas, and she served as the U.S. Secretary of Commerce under President Obama, and was, apparently all of them are philanthropists or full-on rapists. I don't know.
Philanthropath is probably a better word.
Exactly. Whichever way you want to describe it would be a little more fitting. But there was the Pritzker organization is like basically they involved with Thomas being the executive chairman, and so you have the Pritzker organization as and the board of trustees of the University of Chicago. So again, an educational institution is implicated here, and I don't believe either of the Pritzker organization or the board of trustees for the University of Chicago responded to any of the media. Obviously the just media members reaching out to them for some sort of on the record response. They refused to go on the record with anything whatsoever in regard to this connection. But the student newspaper for this university is apparently the first to report on the emails and the connections between Epstein and Pritzker. And so you have a handful of different emails that were discussing like political events at the current moment. And one of them about Thomas Pritzker's family, Penny Pritzker, the cousin that I just mentioned, being the Commerce Secretary for Obama. And this was in 2013. Epstein sends Pritzker a Washington Post article about Penny. And apparently the entire thing was about her income being $80 million and allegedly being understated in this context. And so Pritzker writes back, "I clearly did something wrong in my last life to have to deal with this bullshit, and I warned her." So I don't know what exactly they're discussing, but he says, Epstein says, "Nice to see you. Please come more often." It's unclear, obviously, what meeting or gathering they were referencing in that context, but always fun, Pritzker responded. And in 2010, Epstein forwards Pritzker an email with a subject line that includes "Nobody knows nobody in Chicago." And the email is basically this strange analysis about the inner workings of Chicago politics and the relationship between Obama and this disgraced, convicted former Illinois governor named Rod Blagojevich.
Blagojevich, yeah,
Blagojevich.
Blagojevich, I know,
Thank
yeah.
you, because I was unaware of this until this connection. Honestly, what was the scandal? Just if you're aware, do you remember?
Yeah,
Uh,
he got busted on influence peddling. He was trying to arrange for the next senator to, I think it was to fill Obama's seat or something like that. Like he was in there trying to like negotiate it for money.
Of
He got caught.
course.
Like he left something. He's a lousy criminal. He's an attorney too. Like he left some recording of it. It's audio recording. Which, hey
Wow.
buddy, you want to buy the, you want to buy
Mhm.
the senator's office or something?
And that reminds me of Senator Clay Davis in The Wire. You know what I mean? Like just reminds me of the level of corruption
Yeah, it's just,
that was.
they just
I mean,
breathe corruption. Yeah.
absolutely, and I
This
think
is
it's
another just
go ahead.
another Savile document, but like this is it. Like somebody called this in. Fingers organization is part of a cult that has Ernst Gubler. Key players, a photograph of Harvey Weinstein receiving an award at a cosmetics show. That's when Jeffrey Epstein was in the news. So they're talking about he was a substitute teacher. Maxwell's an art dealer for which he designed to develop products.
Man,
They went to a trade show that was really awful in New Orleans. Glenn Dubin and Leon Black were present, and Jimmy Savile was the entertainment for the night. Pretty
that is
disgusting.
so disturbing.
I mean, I have to like see if he was ever in New Orleans. I just want to confirm that,
Absolutely.
Was Epstein ever in New Orleans?
Man, New Orleans has clearly been an operational hub for intelligence for generations at this point. I mean, just seeing what was it? Marion Petty's son was in the Civil Air Patrol and then became employed by Southern Air Transport. I mean, it's like, how is this possible that we have a direct relationship to the JFK assassination and the
And
finders?
the finders.
I mean,
It's just a small world.
yes, it is, man, especially in these circles. And my God, just the level in which, oh yeah, and by the way, that quote was so funny, just as in regard to Chicago politics and the corruption there. Rule number 1 says Pritzker of Chicago politics: no matter what you see, hear, or do, you don't know anybody and you don't know nothing. P.S. If you pass this on to your friends, don't forget, you know nothing and they will know nothing. It's obvious that yeah, this is just the way in which they kind of reassure themselves and follow the path of silence in
The
terms
sign of silence, just like Jeff
Exactly.
Staley was making when he went into jail or
100%.
court. He's like,
right.
stay silent, guys. Nobody talks. Everybody lives. People who talk die.
That's crazy.
Just like
Did that
Paul
guy
Harford. I don't know if I don't think he had a criminal complaint, but a lot of these guys paid out millions of dollars, and we don't know the civil suits because the civil litigation file that I sent you, those are just like a drop in the bucket. Those are the ones that were put in the files for some reason.
My God.
But you can imagine all the civil litigation that's going. Some of those law firms are devoted to dealing with kids who've been sexually abused, whether it's the Catholic Church or in porn or whatever.
Mhm.
And so imagine their files. They must be incredible.
Oh man, just that Dershowitz
Dershowitz
correspondence,
was bad,
yeah, that you had sent me. I think it was more toward the top of the civil suits, and my God, I'm just reading through it about this alleged rape and sexual assault, and I believed every word. I mean, I just can't
don't you
imagine
think
a
it rings
world.
true?
How
The other thing
hell
is
could you
these
make
lawyers
that
are mandated to put that there's other things they're going to the FBI,
Yeah,
It's like, oh, I got to go to the FBI.
right.
They're like, oh yeah, the one with him is like, this is the most violent, horrible thing I've ever read. What does he say? In my life as 27 years as an attorney or something like that, right?
Oh my God.
Yeah, isn't that the one? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The history my client shares with your client, Jeffrey Epstein, is hands down the worst case of sexual depravity and misconduct I've come across in all of my 27 years of representing victims of sexual assault and harassment. It is the sort of conduct that makes the blood boil and stomach churn of any decent person.
Exactly.
That's so Alan Dershowitz knew this in 2019. Somebody's sending him this. I'm assuming he read it. So
the vanguard of snuff.
Right. So then people are putting him like inviting him on shows.
Yeah.
Like it's on CBS. Like
To
that's your
debate,
news
like,
guy?
Yeah. And to do things
He's
like
part of the network. He's part of the Epstein network.
exactly. And to do things like debate age of consent and I mean with people like Michael Tracy, my God, you know, it's just these usual suspects that reek of being very much members of the pedophile occupied government and just kind of their mouthpieces of protection, because they do seem to be the pedophile protectors and vanguard of these very strange sadistic techniques of abuse. And I mean, for generations, man, you know.
This is like one of the most remarkable clips ever. Like if you decipher this, you have some kind of like totem of feminism who invented rape fantasies and was whacked. That's this person wearing suspenders.
Right.
Like she should be in a mental institution.
Mhm.
And then you have Buckley, who's a member of Skull and Bones, who like his real preference was like dudes, like according to Crazy Days and Nights. Oh, you got to kind of take it with the crazy.
Howard Hunt was William F. Buckley Jr.'s godfather.
Yeah.
Like
You can't even write this stuff.
Small circles, man. It's just
Small
fascinating.
circles. Well, listen to this whole clip though. It's really, and then you've got Dirt, like they're mentioning Dersh and snuff films.
Of getting me convicted, but they can try. But the film I can keep making money from, that's
There
protected.
is a great deal of evidence to demonstrate, probably more evidence on this side than on the other side, that exposure to what you call pornography, if anything, inhibits illegal sex conduct. No, that is, but there is a lot of learning to
Speak
that
to
effect.
what happens to a woman who has been raped and the rape has been filmed and the films are being sold.
This is
that.
This is a very interesting point. I had a debate with Alan Dershowitz at the Harvard Law School 3-4 years ago, and he was taking the flat-out pill position. You can't censor anything.
Flat out pill position.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what about a snuff film? Do you know what that is? People get killed.
That is actually, it's never been proved there is.
Yes, it has been proved there are snuff films. I can tell you two off the top of my head, which is those two crazies in California, Leonard Lake and Richard Ng, I think, film snuff films, and Luke Minotta. He did the like One Psycho, and he filmed him killing the dude. Those are just ones we know of. Like I don't know what's in the underground, or whatever.
Wait, never mind. And though he kind of didn't like that. Well, he said, it would be all right. You would have to protect a snuff film that was made abroad, because then the murder would not be something that had been, so to speak, licensed derivatively in America. I thought that a high form of sophism to say it's okay to show films of people getting killed as long as you kill them outside the continental limit.
That is insane.
Yeah, he and Howard Hunt were like best buddies. I mean, they both worked, I think, in the CIA office in Mexico, which was
He
I think
said
at
that
one time the number one largest, office of the CIA.
just so happened to be where the Oswald impersonator was showing up as well, near the Russian embassy down there. But
Just a coincidence.
just
Come
a
on.
coincidence. And it turns out it was William Buckley that he said it was at the Mexico CIA station that basically he was recruited by Howard Hunt to be an asset on behalf of, I believe he was a Mockingbird media asset, obviously. But William, can I let my dog out real quick?
Yeah, of
Do you
course.
mind?
Yeah. I'm
I'll
going
be
to start
right
looking
back.
at the comments. People are chatting like crazy.
Awesome. Thank you.
Let's see. Thanks for everybody. We're at like 350 live listeners on multiple sites. So I streamed to 6, and then I think Austin's streaming to 2. Just finishing up the cast. Yeah, I saw that. Austin was with Brad Binkley recently. Hey, Retardo Genio, always fire. Thanks. Good evening, everybody. Parapsychology. I do have a file on that. Like, there's a lot of mind control. He knew NLP. He knew like trauma-based stuff. He was knowledgeable, at least writing on these emails about it. Going for 12 years. It won't be a forever or sure, of course. Yeah. Dentist in Delaware, take pressure off duty. Yeah, probably. Psychological element. Yeah, I mean, well, we can go into that. We're at the 90-minute mark right now. Yeah, the DuPont air raped like a 3-year-old, right? Like something like that. Art and moving around. Yeah, there was like other things in the files where people would take payment for trafficking with art, with antiques. That's my understanding. So yeah. Like Camarneal. Sickos have their own secret codes. They sure do. Yeah, they have all kinds of codes. And some of the stuff hasn't been deciphered yet. We don't know. We don't know some of the secret codes. But I've learned some. Shrimp, grape soda, gang rape. Liam. Epstein attended Interlochen as a kid. The cycle continues. Yeah, and there's like stuff that he told somebody. I read this recently. I have to confirm it, but he told somebody he was abused as a kid, like by an uncle. So the cycle of abuse, is that it?
Yeah.
MC Mac.
That makes sense, though.
So it's Jose, Martin McFly. Hey, Jose. I think Jose Gallison is listening.
Yeah, you mentioned Leonard Lake, and yeah, the first thought I had was what it was pits that the police discovered whenever they raided his property with human remains at his home, and
Leonard Lake.
Mm-hmm.
No, they put him in a wood chipper. Put
Yeah,
the bodies in the wood chipper. It's just like a hell escape.
mm-hmm.
Leonard Lake in the military, Vietnam.
Man,
sealed files as usual.
the same story.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And video cassettes involving humiliation and torture, rape, and obviously the snuff filmed homicide and death of several female victims. But
Brandon's asking you, who was the guest you had on recently? Briefly mentioned the link between Black and Coomer Scott Green at University of Idaho. Do you know that?
oh, I think that was probably JJ Vance from Operation GCD. Yeah, he's very knowledgeable. I think he was actually a private investigator for quite some time and served some time in the military as well. So he has a very strange background. He actually has kind of a personal reference point to some of these strange operations that families will essentially parents will exploit their own children for operational applications and things of that nature, and involve them even at times accidentally and just through naivete and vulnerability right into programs that would effectively kind of send them down that path of becoming a potential potential prey for the predator class, obviously in a certain way, but for more purposes than just sexual abuse. And I think he had some sort of personal connection to a certain. I think it was some sort of curriculum that he went through, some group that was taught at Sandy Hook before it was closed down as an elementary school, which I thought was fascinating stuff. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, he's a wealth of knowledge. But I will say that the Leonard Lake connection, though, I mean, when we're talking legitimate definition of snuff films, right? And it's something that too many people, I mean, just don't realize there was a Newport Beach, California connection as well. It's called the Magic Club Island. And I didn't realize that connected into Manson too from
Menser.
Yeah, exactly. Menser, Bill Menser, I believe his name was, and the Arliss Perry murder, and I think Roy Radin through the contract killing of Roy Radin, and again brings in a major film producer, right? Which I think is understanding the Cotton Clubs or the Cotton Club film, and just as far as the production of those films, and,
right. The story behind the film is more important than the film.
Exactly. It's fascinating stuff. But yeah, there's a magic island. They called it Menser helped found a nationwide satanic private club called Magic Island, magic with a K. And Manson too, Bill Menser was from the LA area. And apparently, I mean, you have basically the Sam cult had its headquarters in Los Angeles around this time, apparently. And so he happened to be involved with Charlie and the family in LA, And Berkowitz even acknowledged that one purpose of the New York City shootings was the production of the snuff films, obviously involved in that. But I think that was outside the Elephas Club, right, where they had in the
Elephant's Club,
van.
that's right.
Yeah, which that alone is suggesting the occult layered symbolic nature of
Eliphas
the
Levy, right?
exactly, and that was specifically referenced by David Berkowitz in an interview, was that it wasn't just Moloch, right? They were sacrificing to a deity of gods, right? Just it was a pantheon of occult gods, and for different purposes, and that makes far more sense than I would imagine Moloch or whichever form that he comes in any given ideological practice. It's the ritualistic nature of child sacrifice and offering that vulnerable child victim to that specific deity with a purpose apparently applied to it in their devout ideological standpoint. And I just think that alone is fascinating, obviously. But the club, what happened? So that club is strange to me because Roy Radin, obviously, Berkowitz suggests he was the kingpin in a cult, allegedly, and so as far as Mincer, right, when he murdered Roy Radin. And so that cult is what I think was technically set up the Magic Club or Magic Island. And it turns out that you have the trusted bodyguard of Roy Radin, right? Or of Larry Flint, I mean, basically being involved with the murder of Roy Radin. And then also Mincer is connected in as the bodyguard for Larry Flint. So the fact that you have all these strange connections, and Larry Flint's the founder of Hustler magazine, and it's impossible to separate these things. And I think there was one informant who claimed that Mincer, he knew him personally, and he directly linked him to this private social club in Los Angeles and Newport Beach, and that it was formed specifically to cater to mystical interests. So that's why it was called the Magic Island Club. And so apparently
Where's this reference from? Where is it, in a book?
So this is connection to the Magic Island Club in Newport Beach, California, from page 964 of Maury Terry's Ultimate Evil. Yeah. So I did find that reference to obviously this same club, which they referenced as, I think Maury Terry put it as, it included dope dealing and sadomasochistic sex, were apparently a major part and component for what they would practice on a just daily basis, it seems. But the club had a branch in Houston during the Dean Corll murders.
Wow.
And basically directly connects in John David Norman, obviously he has the pink index cards, which Paul Bonacci claimed he even personally saw those pink index cards, which had all the victims' personal information, and even their personal background information. So much detail about the individual victims was being maintained and kept in an archive by the network itself. And when Dean Corll was exposed, it basically, was revealed through that criminal case, it's just fascinating that you have this direct overlap, and that you have individuals who were going of prominence, who were helping facilitate the cover up, talking about district attorneys, things of that nature, being reassigned to these various geographical areas, even going from Denver to Atlanta to Houston. And you're wondering, how is this possible if you're not entirely compromised and acting on behalf of the network, right, for the cover up, obviously. And it's just, again, something
It's
that
just
I
part
think,
of the network. Yeah, just
100%. And man, it never ends. It
never ends. It doesn't.
Yeah.
You can just pull the threads on something, and it just goes and ties into somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Tara, William Ramsey, thank you. Williams looks like Scott Connor from Zaster. I don't even know what that is.
Another reference.
Sandusky retired. That ass of football. I'm still abusing boys. That wouldn't surprise me. Elaine facing justice doesn't be part of the play, not the version of the script. Well, I think she finally got some kind of justice.
Right.
Children's camp. I was just going to watch that episode on the Rabbit Hole podcast.
Oh yeah. So I went on with yes, I think her name's Danielle, I believe, the host of the Rabbit Hole podcast. She's a very great person. I enjoy speaking with her, and she actually is the one who introduced me to the Kanakuk camps just recently when I went on to her show discussing Columbine, and obviously we got a little bit into the Epstein files because it's so relevant and impossible not to discuss at this point. So but yeah, that's sort of how we got into a little bit of an emotional moment because we just clearly were bogged down in being overexposed to some of these details, and it's just never ending when it comes down to the emotional impact and overall effect of when you climb back out of that proverbial rabbit hole and try and put the pieces of your life back together in a way that makes sense and can somehow internalize and make sense of what you just exposed yourself to. It's a daily struggle, and I feel blessed and grateful for opportunities like this because it helps me not feel entirely alone in that fight, right? Yeah.
I know. Let me get through these.
Go
Comments.
ahead, brother.
Said to Tara, sad to think the victims. Yeah, there's some of the testimonies are in there in the civil litigation file. We didn't get to it, but I sent it to Austin. Tara says hi to Austin. Hasio told him, do your worst and laughed him. He was in the Church of Satan. G Enterprise. Think about that yesterday. Passio, they enjoy it. Yes, Dershowitz is a nudist, as was the man who played Big Bird and owned a campground. Okay. The ancestors have been getting away for hundreds of years. I think this is like an underground. This is what they do. They just have a public face. I think you're right. There's something they're carrying, like the weird stuff, the cannibalism and ritual stuff. There has to be some kind of like network or something. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Adelson took over the land ski operation in Vegas directly. Not surprising at all. Vegas is a dump. Fun time. Love you both. Thanks for being here. Is it going to stop running to P until I die in the name of Jesus Christ on my lips? I don't care anymore. I don't care, Tara. I feel the same way. I'm going to repost stuff just forever. Like I'm not letting it go. Uncle Ted, hey, just mentioned you.
Oh yeah, I didn't finish my thought with Uncle Ted. It was very brief, just to make that final point. Was that he made the statement, and it makes a lot of sense. That basically the money profited off of the sale of the Promise software by the Maxwell family helped with the seed funding for the Clinton Foundation, or provided even directly the seed funding for the Clinton Foundation was the sale of the Promise software. I don't know exactly what transaction that he was suggesting, but either way, it's worth looking into. I'm not entirely certain if that's true, but I did find it very interesting and definitely something that could be plausible enough to consider is the point. But I'll have to check back on and follow back down that thread just a little bit more for myself. But anyway.
Yeah, Osborne, can't believe this channel doesn't have more viewers. You can share it. Share the show. I mean, the best way for advertising is people share the stuff that they think is worthwhile on their social media. It's free. I mean, my YouTube channels, they don't reflect how many people, because I was taken off of YouTube for 4 years. I just got my stuff back in October, so it doesn't tally. Like, it's weird too for me to be on X because I'm not censored. I'm so used to being censored,
right.
But like I actually can see growth in people like watching stuff. So it's refreshing. It probably will change once, I don't know what's going to happen in the midterms, but I mean, I think the Republicans are going to get swept because of all this stuff. So
they're doing their best. I know that much. As far as, I can't imagine the overall sentiment being that this is the answer to continue down this path, and I would imagine there will be fallout politically speaking and consequences to these major scandals. I mean, and that notion of you can't switch horse midstream or whatever George Bush Jr. said back in the day, I think that was him. I can't remember, but just either way. It doesn't apply anymore in terms of, I think that people are very much just overall exhausted in terms of these regime change operations and these forever wars. I just can't see a world in which this doesn't fall in a very negative way in the subconscious minds of the vast majority.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Well, I think they just try to atomize people. Like the loneliness people feel is intentional. It's an intentional top-down behavioral, psychology approach. Most people are pissed. You pay way too much in taxes. A lot of it's stolen. And it's just the country's going down the tubes. It's just that simple. Yeah. Good evening, Buddha. Hey, welcome. Your favorite uncle. It's one big club. That's right. Guy was a pro actor. Day tripping. Let's see. This mofo's got to go now. That looks like his blonde pilot girlfriend. Marcin Kova was a lot taller. So, I mean, I showed that picture of the young girl. She didn't look like her, but maybe. Mountbatten, she sure did do stuff with boys. Favorite uncle. Roy, attorney for Studio 54, free coke den. Yes, yeah, that's very true. That made all his money got because his own version of Promise and the Ring contract. I wouldn't be surprised. Inside info, they're all doing it. Tara, way to go. Austin and William Ramsey. Yep, thanks for joining us. Didn't know about Cone. Yeah, let's see. I can't even know. Thanks for the $20, Jules. Thank you. Two of my favorite legends of the game. I got you both on my tinfoil hat, Mount Kushmar. Yes, we've both been on there. I should probably reach out to. I think I know a lot about Epstein at this point. I should reach out to.
Oh man, Sammy boy.
Sam, yeah.
Yeah.
Shabbat shalom, sure, whatever.
Whatever you say.
Yeah. Any time in history that wasn't awful. Well, I don't know. There's some people who are pretty good. So it does happen. You do get leaders, but the U.S. is on like a downward spiral of degeneracy.
100%. Yes.
They used to have to make a pretense of Christianity. So like they would, used to, now it's all taken out of the public square or something. Like it's just not even like moral. Like it's just not even there.
No.
Epstein's a poster child. Of course he is. Of course he is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm almost done.
Oh, you're good.
I can't, there's so many commenters, guys. It's hard for me to say hi to everybody, but I appreciate all the comments. People can check it out on YouTube, research and read them. Some people are confused because I have 3 channels. All the info data comes into me from Austin's channels, my 6 channels. And so you have kind of to see all the comments, you'd have to bounce between my 3 YouTube channels and Rumble to see it all. So it's hard for me to go. But anyway, we're almost at the 2-hour mark. I mean, I feel like we've covered a lot of stuff. I mean, we didn't even get to the documents I sent you. But,
I know. I'm so sorry, man.
It doesn't matter. There's a lot to talk about. I mean,
yeah.
The network. Is there anything? I mean, I'm pretty much wrapped up. Do you want to add anything, or do you want to keep going? Like I'm ready to call it.
I just had the that last point I was getting at with Pritzker. The reason that I was kind of going down that little rabbit hole for a brief moment was because I thought that it's fascinating, the connection to, because as I had mentioned to you privately, I was reading through how through this investigation and case against Prince Andrew about sharing illegally sharing intelligence when he was obviously traveling to these various foreign nations, and I forget. I'll pull up which nations they were exactly, because I think it's that in itself is very important to understand. So one of them clearly was dated for November 2010, and it was forwarded by Andrew 5 minutes after he had received it. Another happened a few weeks later, appearing to sending Epstein a confidential brief on investment opportunities. This is the fascinating part. Investment opportunities in the reconstruction of Helmand Province, Afghanistan. And so I instantly stopped, just reading in my tracks, because the notion of Epstein financially benefiting and profiting off of the Afghan reconstruction project is too much to to just not acknowledge and to pass up and act as if it's not something that is extraordinarily just kind of what it alludes to as far as the overall power paradigm and how much these people, usual suspects and lizard people, let's say, I mean, just in terms of their sociopathic lizard brain, and clearly they are exploiting every layer of opportunity available to them. And I realized this through, I think he was also sharing reports of official visits to Hong Kong and Vietnam and Singapore. I mean, it's a very strange, obviously. But then you have that Andrew Lowney, that guy that you had come on the show. I saw him basically claim that that through Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and that long friendship with Epstein, in his book, he basically claims that a source told him Epstein had plotted to hire a hitman to assassinate then Prince Andrew in the weeks before his death.
Wow.
And according to Lowney, two people who were close to Epstein, quote, one in Paris and another one in Palm Beach. I'll send you this article. And I had to get it archived basically from archive.is because it instantly went behind a paywall very quickly, which not surprised. But so you have to figure out a way around that paywall. So I'll send you that version. But anyway, I found it very worthwhile and at least mentioning because, again, we're talking about apparently these two individuals close to Epstein, one in Paris, another one in Palm Beach, said Epstein had grown paranoid that Andrew and his ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, would leak incriminating information about him. Quote, I think he was getting very nervous, says Lowney. He thought particularly Sarah Ferguson might spill the beans on him, and this was a precautionary measure, I suppose. So,
Wow.
yeah.
There's talk of like him and his doctor talking about like Delta forces and Green Beret stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
no. There's a quote that Epstein had been in talks with a notorious UK sniper for hire. So, and Lowney says if Jeffrey hadn't died, which who knows at this point, the strange body double decoy. I mean, I'm not saying that he's alive. I just think I see why people are very much open to speculation on that fact. Is the only point I'm really making. Oh, and there's an additional context with as far as like connection to apparently Epstein's missing prostate. And yeah, there was we had a patron jump on the show on Tuesday and talk about Epstein's prostate. And I'm telling you, it was something that connected an additional theory that I didn't even realize existed. But apparently it's called the body replacement theory, I think is what it's called. And it basically has to do with what they claim was Hillary Rodham Clinton's brother, right? Which who knows? It seems a little extraordinary, but the circumstances of the death and as far as the prostate is concerned, there are discrepancies, and that's why it caught people's attention because an autopsy shows that basically an email from the DOJ suggests Epstein may have lacked a prostate. But the autopsy report indicated that he had an intact prostate, which caused everyone to clearly question, just the official conclusion. And then this body substitution theory was basically attached to this, and I found it strange. But
was it ever proven that he had a radical prostatectomy? Did he have his prostate removed?
See, that's
where's the proof?
Thing. Exactly. And the problem is, I think there's one.
I would think it would be all over his records.
Absolutely.
He's had that surgery. It's a pretty serious surgery.
Mm-hmm. But I did think that, it's a strange thing, obviously, as far as even, imagining the correspondence between, I forget who he was having this discussion with, but it was in regard to Viagra. And basically that you could still perform sexually without a prostate, apparently, if you had a healthy dose of Viagra or something to that effect. I forget exactly what the wording was.
It was his doctor. He was talking to his urologist, and he said, okay, you can take Viagra, and then let's meet for grape soda and pizza.
Interesting.
Right? So, like, that's like, I don't know what the date is on that one. I'll have to go back through and look at it. But
right.
It's definitely, he had a urologist, but where's the records? Like, you'd have follow-ups, there'd be record of his surgery.
Right.
There's not a lot of those records are in his files, or at least they haven't become apparent. Like, where's his medical? We know that if you look at the FBI files for him in jail, he's taking a lot of different pills. Mm-hmm. He's not very healthy at 66. I don't think he's very healthy.
Right. I think her name's Danielle, by the way. I tried to mention it earlier. She goes by Danny, I think, but the host of the Rabbit Hole podcast. Yeah, he's on his third prostate transplant. Oh my God, man.
Yeah, I mean, okay, well, I'll have to see that email conversation. Yeah,
Yeah.
they could have switched him out. They clearly had two different cars, so they got him out of that jail under some kind of, like, they knew something was going to happen. Like,
Yep.
they avoided the cops by having
Oh,
a
yeah.
decoy car. So it suggests planning, like pre-planning of something. So
Yeah, I think
I'm not averse to the idea that the guy's still alive, but he's much better off dead. He had information on everybody. They all wanted him dead. Why would they want him alive? The only
Exactly.
people who would want him alive maybe are the Mossad or Israel, or
Yeah.
and do they have the power to actually subvert an entire jail? Because that's what you'd have to do. You would have to subvert the employees, the researchers, and put in this fake story. That means everybody who investigated the case, all the attorneys, all the people who did the cover up, that's a huge, vast amount of people.
Right. Yeah, and I mean we do have some examples of I don't think it's anywhere near the entire institution itself being fully compromised, but it could be in terms of just this. If I remember the Patty Hearst case, I believe the institution that you had Donald Sinque DeFries being home or housed at, which I believe
Symbionese Liberation Army.
exactly, and I believe it was the same place where Manson himself was actually institutionalized for a brief time. And anyway, the point being is that they had many different. So I believe the California prison industrial complex was essentially the California prison system was working in tandem with the intelligence apparatus, and they had a few different institutions and facilities that were entirely devoted to the domestic clandestine operational kind of headquarters of much of the behavioral modification and experimentation research being conducted on inmates. And that was specifically at I forget the name of I'll find it here in a moment, but where they held Donald Sinque DeFries and Colston Westbrook, who was a Phoenix Project operative, who actually was behind, I believe it was Project Shalom, which was a clandestine operation to basically procure the land in Guyana to train up the Angolan rebels on a black site. Well, that land would inevitably become the People's Agricultural Project of the People's Temple and Jim Jones. And it turns out that I believe it was Larry Layton's brother-in-law, interestingly enough, worked for UNITA right at the time and was helping train up the Angolan rebels for the CIA. And he's the one who procured the land for the People's Temple and Jim Jones. And so anyway, Colston Westbrook was a part of that operation, gets brought back from the Phoenix Project to within the domestic U.S. and sets up at UC California, Berkeley as a professor, a fake professor, who then goes and entrenches and sets up basically an institutionalized pipeline to that major institution and facility housing Donald Sinque DeFries and experimenting on all of their inmates and having this crazy statistical anomaly of an extraordinary number of prison breaks, which apparently the story goes, it was actually the prison guards were on the take and compromised by the operation, and many of which were actually a part of the agency and obviously disguised as, guards within the prison itself. And they would perform the behavioral modification experimentation, and then they would basically allow them to escape and set them up with a bus pass and send them to all these different cities within the domestic U.S. to cause a major crisis, like a mass shooting or a school shooting, or this happened many times. And so the fact that they were able to kind of insulate themselves from ever even being overexposed in the public eye and still almost compromising an entire facility that's being ran by the state of California. it's possible, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But who knows at
Who
this point?
knows?
Yeah, because Tim
Well,
McVeigh, I think, is dead too, right? Like these are loose ends that they want to tie off, in
yeah,
my
don't you
opinion.
think? I mean,
Yeah,
I mean, I think they got rid of Robert Maxwell too. So I
yeah,
mean, these are like at a certain point, these people are causing too much problems, and that's what they're thinking. Like, okay, let's tie this end up. We're done. The operation's done, and we can put this guy to bed, a permanent
exactly.
nap, and we move forward. Find another one. Find the next Epstein. There's probably another 10 or 20 people like him around, which should scare
100%.
everybody. Where can people find your work, Austin?
All right, man. Yeah, so everybody just definitely subscribe to not just the YouTube, please subscribe to the Rumble as well. And definitely if you prefer Spotify or whichever podcasting platform you prefer to use, yeah, please subscribe to the channel as well, or my specific show, the Underclass podcast, because I'm worried about future crackdown on just violating the First Amendment and free speech in general. I do think that we're in a moment where not too I don't think it will be too much time around the corner dystopian wise, as far as the pretext of utilizing anti-Semitism and various other taboo perspectives or subjects that can be interpreted loosely by many people, and then use it as a precedent to essentially silence content creators and people who are just trying to hold power accountable and prominent figures in that systematic structure. And I think that's a very terrifying prospect, because to see people who are very prominent and have major followings and huge platforms with resources at their disposal being brought up on defamation lawsuits because they had the willingness to interview a victim and tell the truth about a child abuse network, and then be threatened and intimidated by that sort of strategy. Now apply that to content creators with a much smaller channel, right? Who don't have those resources available to them to even imagine, standing up to some sort of threat of intimidation, like a major expensive lawsuit of some kind, just by telling the truth. And so that is a very real threat that we're facing. And I appreciate you more than you know, William. Honestly, I do.
I appreciate it.
Man, thank you for allowing me to come on again.
Yeah.
And anytime we get to have a conversation, I feel like I'm all the better for it. So,
Well, that'll be our conclude our 10th show. So we've done 10 shows. There's your logo, the Underclass with Austin Wade Picard and the Epstein files. National Crisis Intake, which we didn't even get to. Anyway, thanks for listening, everybody. Really appreciate it. Share the show and have a great evening. All right.